Lore about Animal Hospital. This is a game where you work as an intern and you're supposed to take in patients while also kicking out strange anomalies. But is that really what you're doing? Because I believe something far more sinister is going on around here. I believe the players aren't actually the good guys, and this doctor isn't all he seems to be. So now the game itself is pretty simple. So when you first join into the game, you're right outside the Animal Hospital. You can freely join the game and play with your friends, but you actually start uncovering the truth about this hospital by talking to these two animals just hanging out in the lobby. The doctors refuse to speak. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Look around. Another containment breach in Ward C. That's the 4th this month. So already, the Animal Hospital is starting to look suspicious. What is it that they're hiding? Well, we could also talk to this other critter right here, and they'll say 3 patients vanished from their rooms last week. The doctors won't talk about what's in the basement. So yeah, the doctors are hiding secrets, and animals that get checked into this hospital are also going missing. So what's going on around here? Well, that's when we can start taking a look at some of the iconic characters within the game, like Barney. So Barney comes in and introduces himself. He also mentions he doesn't really want to check in or anything. He just kind of comes to you and asks for coffee. Nothing out of the ordinary, but then he keeps coming to you for coffee, and you think nothing of it. But then you realize, what does coffee in this game actually do? Well, it raises your sanity, makes you not lose your mind, and also helps you not see all these strange creatures around the hospital, because you'll soon discover that Barney isn't who he says he is. Anyways, at some point Barney gives you a suitcase that says, "Do not open." Once you grab the suitcase, there's a mention that the suitcase feels heavy, but more on that later. Anyways, at some point Barney comes back and requests a favor. He asks for you to take a picture of him, and this is when you finally see the truth, that he's actually an anomaly. But he doesn't attack you or anything. In fact, he calls you his friend and goes about his night. Why doesn't he attack you? You know, he is a bad guy after all. Well, that's because you're not actually a good guy either. More on that later though. Yeah, things do get creepier with Barney though. Like at some point he requests a scalpel, and so when you go and give it to him, he'll mention how it'll help a lot. And he also decides that it's time for him to take his suitcase at the same time. Now, the game doesn't really explain what's inside the suitcase and what's he gonna do with the scalpel, but my theory is that the suitcase probably contains a body, and he's going to dissect whatever's in there. Probably one of the many anomalies that you find in this game. Yeah, very disturbing, but not really that crazy for Barney, because at some point, he asks to hide with you for a little bit. And so if you allow him, he'll go behind the counter and hide with you. Meanwhile, the police arrive and they're looking for him. They mention how he's a serial killer and also show you this photo, the exact same one you were told to take of Barney. And then when you turn around, you'll see Barney holding a knife out, looking extremely dangerous. Yeah, if you try to talk with him, he'll state, "I will kill you if you say a word. If you speak, I will kill you, friend." And so you're pretty much given 2 different options. You can keep Barney hidden, or you can turn him in. So what's the right move? Surely you want to turn in the serial killer, right? You know, the one that used the scalpel to dissect whatever's in that suitcase. You want to turn him in? Well, if you decide to turn in Barney, he'll actually just hurting Officer Duckman and escaping, and you end up getting nothing in return. But if you end up helping Barney and don't turn him in, Officer Duckman will just leave, and Barney will thank you for all the help you've given him by awarding you with an extra free coffee maker. Yeah, that's right, you get nothing for turning in a serial killer, and then you get a free coffee maker, which is extremely useful in this game for helping out the killer. Very strange morals in this game. And now the question is, why does Barney trust you so much? Why does this killer just decide to leave a briefcase with a body in it? And also, why does he keep coming in for coffee? Well, that's because he trusts the hospital and everybody that's in it. And that's because he's actually working with the doctor. Now this is Dr. Harlow. Dr. Harlow is always seen as a trustworthy character in this game. I mean, he ends up giving you advice on surviving this whole hospital, so surely he could be trustworthy, right? He's totally a complete good guy, right? Well, actually, wrong. See, remember that one animal that states they're not even trying to hide it anymore? Look around. And yeah, when you look around in this lobby, if you look up in the window, you could see Dr. Harlow just staring staring directly at you. And he doesn't have the normal innocent looking eyes that he typically has in the game. No, he's actually an anomaly. And again, this game isn't even trying to hide it that much. Like literally one of the thumbnails is Dr. Harlow holding a knife on an innocent looking bunny right there. Yeah, no, Dr. Harlow and everybody in this hospital is actually a bad guy. And what I believe is that in this game, you're not actually treating patients and curing them, you're actually spreading the disease of these anomalies. That's right, you're actually the bad guy. Yeah, one of the texts that the critter says is the security footage from last night is missing again. So somebody in the hospital is purposely deleting the footage of whatever lurks within this building. The doctors also refuse to speak. Patients are vanishing from their room. Every employee who enters the East Wing quits within a week. And then not to mention also that basement that they're talking about. For sure things are hiding within this hospital building. I've seen the same patient die twice now. Same person twice. What I believe is that in this game, you're not actually treating patients and curing them. Instead, you're actually spreading the disease of these anomalies. Yeah, you ever wonder why your face in this game looks so creepy? Or even when you do the jump scare event, you even look like an anomaly? That's because you are one. More information about this hospital can be found in the other characters, such as Ron from accounting. So Ron from accounting is someone you'll meet quite frequently throughout this game, and he drops a lot of interesting information. You ever wonder why they keep hiring new people? Never mind. So already he has some information that he's not telling you about this place. Now Ron throughout this game gives you some useful information. He is surprised that you're still here, you know, still alive and working at this hospital. But yeah, throughout the game he does end up giving you advice to dealing with the other anomalies. But now why are there anomalies throughout this whole hospital in the first place? Well, remember that one animal in the lobby saying how there's patients that are disappearing, or a mention of the basement and how people are quitting once they find out the truth about the East Wing? Something sinister is actually going on around here. And Ron gives his biggest lore drop when he mentions, you want to know a secret? They're testing something here. The patients, they're not sick. They're infected. And to add more to that, I also believe that we're not curing them from this infection. We're actually spreading this whole disease. Yeah, we also get some more information from Ron when he states, ever read the hospital discharge logs? The corporation owns this place, but they hide the logs. Pretty sketchy. Yeah, he also mentions how they moved the old files last month. Said it was a routine cleanup. A lot of smoke for a routine cleanup. So yeah, Ron keeps pointing out the flaws about this hospital, how they're being very secretive and hiding or deleting information, but why? Again, because they don't want the public to know about what truly is going on in this hospital. Yet he also mentioned something about that rat was in my office once. True, through some experiment reports I wasn't supposed to see. Did me a favor, honestly. Now, what rat is he talking about? Well, that would be the next character in this game. The one that is probably hiding a ton of information and not fully revealing to us his true intention. That is Rathieu. Was his true intention. That is Rathieu. So Rathieu shows up pretty early in the game and explains how being small has its advantages, how he hears things and sees things as well. He also mentions how it's a dangerous job. And so right off the bat, it can be interpreted that Rathieu is like some sort of spy. He does at some point give you some advice to don't trust anyone at the hospital. Again, I feel like that's a warning on not trusting Dr. Harlow and possibly any other future characters we might see in this game, because Rathieu knows something that we don't. Remember, he chewed up some important documents that Ron wasn't supposed to see. And now with the new update, Rathieu now has a few more interesting lines. Like, for example, the people with suitcases are hiding secrets. Something evil is going on here. Stay alert. And now who's got a suitcase in this game? Well, we've got Dr. Harlow, Barney, and Ron from accounting. All the ones that seem friendly towards the player, all actually have a dark secret within them. And then also with this new update, Rathieu mentions how he needs to leave, but first wants to chat with you. So you decide to let him into the front desk area, and he sits down, and then he tells you some important lore about himself. I had a twin sister, Ratina. Smart one in the family, that's for sure. She worked for the Animal Corporation. So again, the whole government in this game. Then one day, she just vanished. No note, no goodbye, nothing. I've been looking for her ever since. Rathu at that point up and goes. Remember, the whole Animal Corporation is now after him. So he decides to leave, but before he heads out, he leaves you with something. He leaves a key with a note saying, "Took this key from the dock." And now what you do with this key is you go over to one of the many motivational posters and you'll get an option that says break poster. And once you do that, you'll find this safe where once you use the key, you'll find 3 different items. The top secret suitcase that Dr. Harlow always has, a note that says the experiment was a success, the shadow now sees everything, and then finally a photo of Ratina, Rathu's sister. So we know for sure now that this whole hospital, they're conducting experiments. But for what reason? And what does Ratina have to do with all this? Was she actually taken? Is she working with Dr. Harlow? There's a lot still to uncover. Like, I didn't even talk about how some of this game is actually based off of real life scenarios. So if you want me to look more into that, as well as the lore of Animal Hospital, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.